Alright, say it's raining outside. Alright, girl. Let's go. It's raining. Woo. Atlas.
What's Dad doing?
Atlas.
Over here. 2 hands on the wheel. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Oh, that's a good one. That's serious. Take that. Yeah.
Alright, well, all 15 birds made it in out of the rain on their own, including Amelia's cinnamon queen. Last night actually was the first night ever that she made it in on her own, and I didn't have to catch her, so proud of her on that point. But they did clear out their food and their water. They seem to have gotten really dirty like normal, so we'll clean that out and we'll keep going. Unfortunately though, the automatic door, I opened that back up because it still will not close on its own, so we're still working on that. But hopefully tonight, fingers crossed, it will work. Still raining out somewhat decent, but I guess they're deciding they want to go check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Alright guys, it has not rained here for over 5 days. It has been blistering hot out 24/7. The last couple of days, our outdoor thermometer that runs into our house has been reading about 110 to 120 just under the metal awning, which I know that's not an accurate air temperature for outside, but it just shows how much it's heating up the side of the house. Temperature's been just under 100 to just over 100. And everything has been suffering. We are going through so much water. It's taking forever to water everything. It's slowing down chores. We're filling up waters 2 or 3 times a day to keep up with it. And today when I was leaving work, it started to rain. So yes, it started to rain out. Unfortunately though, that was at work, and as I was leaving, well, the rain for some reason decided it wasn't going to continue, because by the time I got home it was completely still bone dry out. So I went through, got chores, a couple of chores done, got back inside and ate dinner, and lo and behold, it started to rain. Now it's of course not a ton of rain, but rain nonetheless, so we will take it. I think I'm going to skip today watering the garden, but I probably will, touch and or mist it down a little bit. So not a ton of rain. But nothing that we can't complain about. Enough to get the grass wet. And right now, I think I'm going to skip watering the garden tonight, but I will touch base on it in the morning. And if it seems dry, if we didn't get any more rain, I'll probably mist it down a little bit then, but overall I think everything's still doing great. We only planted a couple onions this year. We have corn, cucumbers. Those asparagus beans are doing okay. They're growing a bit slower than what I had initially believed they would. We have our tomatoes, lettuce, chard. I mean, pretty much the basics just this year. With the timing of us getting into the house, it was just so hard. We had to get the garden beds built. We had to get things planted. We had to bring in everything. And then just moving and the work that we've been doing on the house too slowed us down. So next year, of course, it's going to be a lot bigger. We have our 5 garden beds right here. Well, they're not really garden beds, but essentially. And we're adding 5 or 6 more on next spring. So maybe this fall we might get them dug up. But everything's doing great. We're going to get some more lettuce planted. Our watermelons are really, they never took off this year. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm thinking about rototilling that up and planting lettuce in it. And having some late summer lettuce. And then our project, I think, for this weekend is we are going to set up an archery shooting range. Viv was lucky enough to get a bow I think it was last August. We took her to Cabela's on her birthday in October. Got it all set up. Pretty nice bow, actually. And I think we're going to finally get some time to get out and shoot that. So that's this weekend's project. I think we're going to set it up here behind the garden. If I measured this out right, I'm thinking we could easily get a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90 and 100 yard shooting spot. So that'll be a lot of fun. The rain now is slowing down and the sun is back out. And unfortunately now it just feels even more humid than ever. So, yay to that. But chickens are still doing great. Everything's watered. I had to pick up some stuff that got left out in the yard from this morning from Atlas playing. Kind of funny thing this morning when I was leaving. It just seemed to be the day that everything was coming out because we had some raccoons off on the far side of our property, and I went out and scared them off, and probably about 15 minutes later they came back a second time. So I went out, scared them off. Same thing happened last night, actually. Last night I ended up sitting in our laundry room for a while watching for them, and they didn't come back. But this morning I had to leave for work, so not quite sure if they came back. And then when I got home, our hose spigot was tipped over, or the hose reel, and checked the security footage on that from our yard, and a deer actually took that out. So just seems like everything's wanting to come in. But honestly, with us not having fencing around our garden, nothing's gotten into it. So I'm pretty happy about that. And other than that, I did stop and I got some pellets for our pellet gun. We'll keep an eye on the raccoons, but hopefully they won't come back anytime soon. But it is something that I do want to kind of keep an eye on, just hopefully everything goes okay. But really, just quick update on the chickens. They're actually now using their entire run, so I'm really excited about that. Only took a week and a half for that to happen, but just up until a couple of days ago, they were only using about a quarter of their run. So really excited about that. I gotta finish getting their the chicken swings hung up, and then I have some hanging feeders that I'm gonna put in there too. So got to get that done this weekend too, or next week. I don't know. Everything's kind of falling behind time-wise, but since the rain stopped, they all came right back out. When it did start, they all took off for the coop, so I'm really glad to see that they figured that out pretty quickly. Amelia's Cinnamon Queen actually went inside the coop on its own last night for the first time, so I was pretty happy about that too. All in all, though, I mean, everything's going great. Didn't get to record much of us getting our chores done just because of the rain. I didn't want to be running around out here with my camera, but pretty much everything's taken care of at this point. I did check the back of our chicken run. Nothing seems to be getting in there, so I'm pretty glad. I did see one spot where there was maybe a possibility, but after looking it over, I'm pretty sure it was like that beforehand, and I might have just missed a spot. But overall, it's still pretty good. We're going to keep an eye on it. I did throw the watermelon back in the run this morning, and they've eaten it down right to the skin. So I'm glad to see that they're figuring that out. They're still kind of struggling figuring out food scraps that we're putting in there. They do really well with their feed, but for some reason food scraps, it's kind of hit or miss. And they are, like I said, they're getting better about it. And they have a pretty much everything now that we put in there the last day or two, but beforehand it was just, they only would eat bread. That was it. So glad to see that's done. Like I said, I'm glad to see the garden's doing really good. I'm glad that we finally got some rain, and hopefully we'll get a couple more showers tonight. They're calling for some severe thunderstorms that might roll through. So if we're at all lucky, that'll happen. But other than that, I'm going to finish up a couple things that I have here, and I'll see you guys on our next vlog.